Hello. Thank you everyone for coming. Very good evening to all. And thank you panel members. So just now Srini just talked about a very misunderstood term of shared responsibility model in the cloud and shared security responsibility model in the cloud. So Amit, I would like to start with you. If you can shed some light on what shared security model means.
Sure. I think welcome everyone. I think this is the one of the. It's good. Okay, great. So thank you and welcome everyone here in this amazing sessions that we're going to have it today. I think it's just a start. So thank you for your question. And I think shared responsibility model is really we need to understand as a user of the cloud. So I remember my early days where we used to have separate security stuff and separate the infrastructure stuff and then separate other things. But then when the cloud came in, it's really changed the mindset of the security. Now we need to make sure that whatever we are building, it has to be secure from the roots. So I'll take an example of the AWS security shared responsibility model is that we as an AWS are 100% secure, and then we take the responsibility of security of the cloud. So whatever the things has to be built, it's infrastructure, applications, services, APIs, that we take care of all the services that has to be secure off the cloud. But then yes, like a family, everybody has a responsibility. Then in fact the customers or the users also have the responsibility of those security in the cloud. So whenever we are doing some kind of an application building or hosting any applications, we have to make sure that the things are in the right place, the right access, the right data set, the right encryptions. We have to make sure that we also built in that. And that's where we are going to learn today that what responsibility that you as a customer is having and how much the responsibility that you can hand it over to your cloud provider like AWS.
Yeah, thank you, Amit. So, given that organizations are implementing cloud-first strategy and they are moving their infrastructure, their application and their data on the cloud, essentially they are looking to protect it from identities, whether it is human or non-human, or endpoints, whether it is corporate or personal. So, Binod, given that you have been in this space from a long time, right? How can putting some good measures around identities and endpoints can be a good starting point for an organization to keep some of these cyber threats out of the lens?
Sure. Thanks for the question. So when we talk in the context of cloud, and by the way, I'm amazed at what's happening in our country today. I've been trying to talk about identity access in relation to various technologies, elements that we all deal with for almost 15 years. But never before, and India is known for this, suddenly there seems to be a big change in whatever inertia one had seen in the beginning. In the last 1.5 years, I think the amount of distance we have covered, I've never seen, I was in US for 10 years, AK knows we worked together in similar areas. And what took about 15 to 20 years there, I can see it happening in about 2 to 3 years. And that's what we are known for, because we are known for leapfrogging in technology. And in some senses, we don't have much of a choice, because we are not wanting to get left behind. We are a part of the world economy. In many areas, we are more and above others. Digital payment system is a great example of that. Now, we got to see in that context what is changing. So if I see, there are 3 factors which have brought about or bringing about a revolution and a sea of change in the industry, in the IT sector, in what you do. First is what we are talking about, which is the subject matter of today, which is cloud. while we have no choice but to move into cloud, and everybody has a cloud strategy today, one way or the other. The regulators, we work a lot in the financial sector. We also work in other sectors, but financial sector is really going through an explosion. And I've never seen the kind of pressure the financial companies are under today, whether it's the insurance companies with the IRDAI compliance, or it is the companies like the banks or the NBFCs under RBI compliance, the public companies under SEBI compliance, and so on and so forth. Suddenly, there's just so much of pressure on everybody to comply. Now, a lot of it is happening because of the cloud strategy also. RBI, till just about 2.5 years ago, till the big incident of HDFC happened, they were not really so much pro-cloud. And suddenly now, and I'm sure some of you would have seen the latest RBI compliance, which is going to be effective from 1st of October, which is for the outsourcing part of it. Very heavy in terms of the kind of stipulations it has. And as we happen to work with RBI to give them some suggestions on the identity and access side, and the deputy governor in the last meeting was saying that we can't tell the institutions to run before we tell them to walk. And I was telling them, oh, this is just walking, because you seem to be overwhelming them with whatever is happening today. But that's what is happening, and you cannot avoid it. Now, we talked about the cloud part, which is one of the big changes that is happening. I'll just give you one simple example. I find a lot of organizations who are moving into cloud do not have the expertise. We talked about the joint responsibility, right? So your side of the responsibility requires skills in managing cloud infrastructure. And that is not there with many organizations. And so we see them, especially mid-sized organizations, doing outsourcing to vendors who supposedly have good skills in managing cloud infrastructure. Unfortunately, many of those vendors do not have adequate security arrangement at their end. And so, as it happens in security, it's the weakest link in the chain from where the disaster strikes. That needs to be done, and that has to be done by you to ensure that the gaps that are there with your subcontractors managing your cloud infrastructure is managed from your end. You have to ensure that, in terms of accesses, in terms of the identities of theirs and all that gets managed well. So that's one big change. The second big change that is happening today, away from the cloud, is in the digital supply chains. You see, look at the supply chains we had 10 years ago and what we have today. Almost everything is digital, right? All digital supply chains. And the third big factor that I always talk about is working from remote. While COVID might have accelerated that process, but it was something inevitable. It was already happening. Gone are the days when we were talking about perimeter security, where it was safe to work from inside. There's no inside outside. Identity is the new perimeter today. Wherever identity goes, that becomes your perimeter. With people logging in from multiple devices, multiple locations, multiple time zones, everything is changing, and now it's the age of context-based security. So these three things that have happened are reshaping the way we have to work in security today. And the only way to do it is to look at what Gartner calls, they came out with a very interesting paper a few months ago, where they are saying that cybersecurity effectiveness can be increased only if you talk of identity-first security. So that's a new term they have come out with. And they're saying like a missile has a nose, which is supposed to be the most deadly part of it. The entire body of your cybersecurity has to have a nose, which is called identity and access management. So in that, Gartner talks about a new way of managing identity and access, which is called converged identity and access management. As you know, this area is very, very complex. It has got three major pillars. One is what we call access management, which is all about login security, like the single sign-ons and various kinds of authentication, and so on and so forth. That's access management part. Then you have the identity governance and administration, which is all about management of accesses, at application level. And as Anand said, it's not only about managing the access of the human identity, but also what we call today synthetic identity. And in many organizations, number of synthetic identities is much more than the number of human identity. That also has to be managed. So that whole management is coming from the identity governance and administration side. Unfortunately, and then you have the privileged access users for whom you have another silo. All these have existed traditionally as silos, and they don't talk to each other. And that's why IAM has been such a complex area. In the new challenging times on cybersecurity, Gartner recommends that you have to have what they have coined as converged IAM. Just about 1.5 years ago, they talked about it. They said that all these technologies have to come together into one single code-based product, and that is what you need to be looking for. Gartner predicts that more than 70% of the implementations by 2025, which is just a couple of years from now, is going to be of the converged identity and access type. So these are some of the changes that are occurring. We are proud to, we are number one vendors in the world. Cross Identity is number one in the world today. We don't say that, Gartner and others say that. And like they have a great infrastructure, cloud infrastructure management solution. We have provided the nose of the missile in terms of a converged IAM product, which in a service way provides the security to their cloud infrastructure
platform
operations.
Yeah. So thank you, Binod. And the reason why I asked Amit and you first was to essentially make the awareness of what the cloud security model is and how important it is to have an identity-first strategy for a zero-trust security framework on the cloud. Because we need to be aware of all the threat actors, and Colonel, who better than you to talk about all the threat landscape that currently exists and how the threat actors are working in essentially towards all the ransomware and other security vulnerabilities and risks that currently exist.
Thanks Anand, and thanks CIO Club and SecureKloud for a wonderful evening and very fun, wonderful discussions. It's a very interesting space today, and while we talk of zero trust, we talk of other strategies of threat landscape, and what Binod also touched upon. It's about the data at the edge when we talk of the cloud. And when we say the data at edge, it's a nightmare for the security practitioners to manage that kind of thing. And people call data as oil, data as gold, and now it's become a data as a blood. You don't know how it's really flowing. It's a new term which I read just a couple of days back, right? And while the applications, everybody is moving to cloud, there are so many applications which are there. A normal, medium or medium plus size, company will have around 50 plus applications on board with their migrating to cloud. Managing them is a major challenge. And how do you really manage them? It's a kind of cyber mesh strategy which has been propagated by Gartner, which is very interesting. And earlier times you used to have a firewall, IPS, IDS, and you are able to manage, and that's what in fact the strategy of zero trust is also, that you manage the traffic. That is only 15% of the traffic which you monitor. The remaining 85% of the traffic, which is your east-west traffic, which you don't monitor. And then thereafter came a concept of a risk. And most of us, we never look at the risk, which is very dynamic. We configure all the security parameters or security devices to a risk which we know today. All the policies of even the best of the banks are based on the policies, the risks which are today. What if the risk changes after 15 days? Are we changing that? The answer is a big no. So there is a concept called kata, So many Gartners coming up today, words of, so it's basically a continuous adaptive risk threat assessment which you need to do. And you have to align the whole security paradigm according to that. And then you have the SASE. So zero trust as a strategy is not just technology, it's only one part of the overall gambit of the security, that's the SASE. And the SASE brings in the CASB, your other policies which are there, your other strategies around, and the zero trust is one, part of that particular strategy. Now coming to the ransomware, and of late what has happened is the cloud also we are facing the similar kind of challenges where the ransomware attacks are so prominent. And interestingly, what the hackers are doing, in this case, they don't want to, encrypt your data in cloud, because in the cloud, the data is spread all over. It's not at one place. So they are not bothered about, encrypting it. They're just trying to take the data out and then ask for the ransomware. So it's a different kind of, they don't want to waste the time in cloud, finding all the parts of your data and compiling it. So that's the kind of challenge which we are facing. So ransomware is not going out anywhere. We're already seeing ransomware happening every 11 seconds. As per one of the studies, it says it's going to increase to 3 seconds by 2030. And if that be the case, all our strategies which we think we are safe are a misnomer. Anybody who says today that I'm safe, nothing is happening to me, take it with a pinch of salt. Because you don't know how your network is compromised. And I'll again reiterate the point of the perimeter security. Till now, we always think all the challenges which are there, all the attacks which are there, they're outside the network. With the cloud coming in, the web coming in, your applications coming in, you're spread, the third-party suppliers who are coming in, you're spread all across the world. You're not just in that, golden perimeter where you think you are safe. So what do you need to do? You need to have an attack surface management. And attack surface management means you need to actually change your whole thought process of security from inward out, where you thought all the attacks are outside, to outward in. That means you're actually monitoring 24/7 what's happening in your network. Identify the malwares. If you're able to do that, that's the way your security is going to change. And what is more important is, we do a VAPT, right? Twice a year, we do an audit, twice a year. We are very happy, the report is okay. We are fantastic. What? The next day, your network is vulnerable. So the strategy, especially for the cloud and the attack surface managers, you need to have a continuous VAPT kind of concept. So this is where we're actually moving towards in the security paradigm. And the configuration part, the misconfiguration part, the skills in the cloud is a bigger challenge. While we are migrating to the cloud, the security is a bigger challenge. It's going to be there. It's a huge area for us to work in, get ourselves aligned to those kind of security skill sets to safeguard those networks. So I'll stop here, for others to answer.
Yeah, as you rightly said, I would also like you to talk a little about, obviously North America region and Europe has been pretty advanced when it comes to regulatory compliance, laying a clear guideline for organizations from a security, compliance, and governance perspective. And some of that has been missing in India from a long time. But I think now, the regulatory bodies are ensuring that they lay the guidelines for organizations to essentially take the proper step for putting all the security and compliance infrastructure in place for not only to be in a state of being secured, but essentially to be in a state of continuous compliance and continuous security. So if you can throw some light around regulatory compliance.
Sure enough. Yeah. So it's a very interesting question and very, way I look at it, US, while COVID was on, There was so much of impetus for the zero trust. There were so many study groups. There were task force which were already on. They came up, and especially with the SolarWinds attack when it happened, they came up with the policy of that the zero trust to be followed by all the DoD departments which are there. And they came up with the policy of don't pay for in case of a ransomware attack. So that is what they have been enforcing for quite some time. There are so many papers on the zero trust as a policy which are there. Unfortunately, we are not even following those kind of steps in India, right? We are still in the kind of a chalta attitude as regards the security is concerned. Why I say this word? Last year, there was an attack on the MobiQuick data which was there in dark web, which was being openly sold. Then we saw the Domino's data which being openly sold. We saw the Pine Labs data which was openly sold. We had the HDFC attack which was happening. And every time whenever there was a cyber attack, interestingly, the owners of the data denied it. It's not my data. Okay? They said, it's not my data. Who said it's my data? And they have been vociferous about it. And last year when our Cert India came up with a policy of 6 hours, and I hope everybody is aware of it, that if you're being attacked, you need to inform Cert India within 6 hours of you coming to know that you have been attacked. But unfortunately, what after that? Do they have the policy in place to inform what? Are they being attacked? Because the Cert India says, give me the logs of what happened in your network. Do they have the logs? The answer is no. The only way you can get a logs is putting a SOAR. Even your SIM doesn't give you logs, it's a noise. How do you really find, how do you really filter out that kind of information? So we are much far behind as regards the regulatory things are concerned at a national level. We are still struggling with a cybersecurity policy. We had the last cybersecurity policy 2013. It was supposed to come 2019. We are still yet to see the light of the day for the cybersecurity policy, because now cybersecurity is becoming everybody's problem, right? And there is no ownership of it. So we are lagging behind in that. CERT finance was supposed to come 2019, the budget which was given by Arun Jaitley. They had earmarked 1,000 crores. So we have still not seen that CERT finance coming up, in reality. Only area which is quite regulated when it comes to the cybersecurity is the banking, where, and one more thing I want to tell you about the regulatory. In 2013, they came up with 6 critical infrastructure. They nominated that, including power, your oil and gas, your aviation, your public sector, your nuclear, all those things. So when the AIMS attack happened on 23rd of November last year, they were stumbled. The reason was why? Because AIMS is not your critical infrastructure. The medical is not your critical infrastructure. Whereas the world over, there are 16 critical infrastructure which have been nominated. We only went with 6. And the 7th one was attacked, so we don't have a policy in place, we don't have a regulatory standpoints for that. So that is where we are. The banks, which I said, are quite regulated. So there have been and that's why you're seeing so much of, business happening towards the bank. Everybody is buying some kind of a technologies which are there, because they have to give that regulatory compliance every 6 months or every year, and the CISO has to sign that, right? So that is how the things are. So it's a long journey for us. We are waiting for the next cybersecurity policy which is going to come up, and I hope so. It should encompass a lot of things. On a legal front, there's a Digital India Act which is supposed to be there. 2023, July was supposed to be, because the draft is out. We were supposed to see the light of the day for that by July 2023 by the Ministry of IT, but I think there's some delay. It was supposed to be already, tabled, but it is not. So it is going to be the mother of all your laws, the IT Act, your PDP, the newer kind of challenges which you are seeing, the newer kind of cyber attacks which you are seeing. So it's going to, cover all those things. It's a very interesting Digital India Act when it comes. So that's the kind of things which we are already seeing it in India. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Colonel. And before, Srini, I come to you for Web 3.0 and distributed ledger, I have a very like interesting question with respect to entitlement management on the cloud and the risk from toxic entitlements which people do tend to get from time to time as they move or the new hire or whatever, And given that organizations have put their critical infrastructure on the cloud, some of this toxic entitlement is very, very risky business, right? So, Binod, how, in your experience working with other customers, you think we can overcome the challenges around entitlement management?
So good question. And this is again about the joint responsibility that you talked about. So whatever things were entitlements management, what we call authorization management also in banks and other institutions, has been there for a long time, has been there for the non-cloud infrastructure, which has been prevalent in the past. But the challenges of cloud entitlement infrastructure are very different. And a lot of things are coming in because of that. In fact, there's a whole science, new technology of CIEM, Cloud Infrastructure and Entitlements Management, which has come in. Frankly, when it comes to inside the solution, and AWS or the others do a brilliant job. There's no problem in terms of managing the entitlements from inside. But the moment you start talking about a holistic system, which is outside AWS also, then that is something that has to be managed, as you rightly said, by you. And you have to look at it very holistically. All the current technologies are failing. We talk about privileged access management. As an example I'm giving you. There are great privileged access management solutions that are available, which are the traditional ones. You've got great names, very good software. But these have been good for managing the inside of things. So you have a privileged user, there's some problem that he has to attend to, he gets a just-in-time password or credentials to enter, he's monitored, he's measured, everything is monitored there. It's available for forensics. So all that has been there in privileged access management. Now, the moment you start talking about managing privileges in the cloud, these solutions, traditional solutions, are not able to take care of that because they were not built for that. And the other issue with the traditional privileged access management software is that they do not manage the life cycle of the privileged user. Because a privileged user also has to be monitored in terms of certification of his accesses, in terms of the normal logins that he's doing in the organization, in terms of segregation of duty violations that are occurring at his level. None of the traditional privileged access management software are able to take care of that. And most of us are not even aware of this issue. But there are new technologies coming. We are one of the 2 vendors in the world actually which provides that, called CPAM, which is a cloud PAM, which takes care of all these things. So things are happening, but I think the most important thing is awareness. Unless the awareness is there, you wouldn't know how to address. And so yes, that's a big area of problem today.
Yeah, and then that also leads into us being aware of that, as per Gartner report just now which came out, 96% of cyber attacks on the cloud infrastructure happened because of your internal human error, right? Some misconfiguration left here and there, which allowed the hackers to essentially creep in and laterally move into your infrastructure and do the maximum damages possible. Unfortunately, human error is something that you cannot take it away, so you have to take a very automation-centric approach when you talk about cloud transformation And we need to be aware that cloud is not about migration, it's about transformation, right? So getting away from the darker side, all the security and other challenges around it, let's talk about some positive aspect of cloud as well, right? So Srini, obviously one of the emerging buzzwords in the market is Web 3.0, right? And obviously also in distributed ledger technologies, right? So how can cloud help organizations move from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0?
Yeah, so when you're able to hear me well?
Now we can.
So when we talk about Web 3.0, that puts the ownership of whatever value you are creating into the hands of the creators, right? So Web 1.0 was all about static, internet, while Web 2.0 is all about you're able to, you cannot transact value, but you can share a lot of information, and the value ownership is left with large organizations like Amazon, Facebook, all these people who have invested heavily in the trust infrastructure, and they corner the entire internet space. Internet is gone by about 10 or 15 large organizations, right? What internet was supposed to create a democratic usage of ability to leverage technology, but it was then it ended up in the hands of a few organizations, and then you have this large ransomware attacks that were happening and large scale loss of privacy, confidentiality, data, all these things, risks that were proliferating. That's when the need for some technology that would balance this risk and reduce the risk, and then put the power back into hands of creators. That was felt, and Web 3.0 has come about, which is actually the cornerstone of which is the distributed ledger technology. Distributed ledger technology, of course, blockchain is the buzzword, but blockchain, all distributed ledger technologies need not be, be a chain of blocks, right? It can be, it's all about decentralized and distributed ledger technologies, which are governed by a set of actors who are participating in a system, who are managing their own distributed ledgers, but not replicated. They're not replicated, but the ownership also is independent of each other. So all of them own similar set of verified and authenticated information. Because of this, it would become almost impossible to change any data that is recorded on the system. So the data becomes immutable and highly trustworthy, right? So blockchain is all about, distributed ledger technologies are all about infusing trust, as well as that can be verified at any point of time in the future. And they also add a different layer of identity, access, authorization, and authentication. So one more layer of authentication. All these set of technologies come together to provide us the extra layer of trust that is required in face of proliferating threats that we are having. One of the first use cases of the distributed ledger technology was when the first major ransomware attack called NotPetya virus happened. That's when I was the CIO of Apollo Solutions, and I was at the receiving end, and we were one of the parties who are in Apollo Solutions who had suffered a lot because of the attack of NotPetya virus, especially organizations like Maersk. And Maersk did a lot of brainstorming, and they did a lot of analysis, research over a period of time, and came about with this platform called TradeLens, and which was based on distributed ledger technology along with IBM. And they said this is the solution for us to overcome any more ransomware attacks in the future. Why? Because when you are using distributed ledger technology, the data is now having multiple copies which are almost immutable and governed by a decentralized system, right? So there is no, even if somebody were to capture your data, the data is already replicated in other places. So there is nobody, you don't have any risk of losing the data, right? Plus, you also have a lot of encryption technologies, identity access authorization and authentication built into this, because of which you have, it becomes that much more impenetrable by, malicious actors. But unfortunately, what is happening is that the economies of these particular new age technologies are still not proven. That's where there are a lot of challenges associated when multiple organizations come together to invest into technologies that store humongous amount of replicated or distributed data for the lifetime, right? So that's where we are still grappling with the challenges of proving the return on investment on these technologies, but the governments are becoming very active in leveraging this technology. Government has, one of the first blockchain projects I have done in my career, that was for Kerala police clearance certificate verification. That was later taken over by the External Affairs and Home Department, and is being implemented for passport verification. So that is already being implemented by Government of India. The person who was in charge of the IPS officers who were in charge of the particular project, he became in charge for this national project as well. And then he is implementing it. And apart from that, government is implementing blockchain on large-scale projects like unsolicited commercial communication tracking, and then CBDC, and now ONDC. All these technologies are leveraging the distributed ledger technologies, which they don't talk too much about. For example, when we implemented the first blockchain project in the country, we were taken to court. That organization was taken to court because there was a misnomer that once you are using distributed ledger technology, you are making a lot of confidential data of the criminals public, right? Which was not true. Actually, blockchain rather protects the privacy confidentiality of the information by a lot of encryption and so many other combination of technologies. So that's where, but court, went through this over a period of 6 months and finally quashed the case, and then the project was implemented. Similarly, when unsolicited, TRI was implementing the unsolicited commercial communication, tracking over a blockchain, still there were a lot of issues that happened, and they were also taken to court, and project was delayed by 1 year, but finally was cleared and implemented. The largest blockchain distributed ledger technology implementations are today happening in India. But unfortunately, these are all overshadowed by the hype around all these, cryptocurrencies and, unregulated, whatever technologies that are proliferating all over the world. But still, the technology is slowly and steadily gaining traction. And one fine day, you would see that, all the supply chains, all the trade finance, all these, any authentication of any premium goods, all these things would be done on a blockchain. And at our organization, we also created a plugin wherein we can enable any e-commerce company to embed Web 3.0 into their applications, so that they are able to provide trust without the dependence on large centralized organizations like Amazon. So that way we could empower tomorrow a lot of organizations to anybody to become a blockchain enabled e-commerce entrepreneur, by very easily. So that's sort of, but these are all happening slowly and steadily, and a lot of education needs to be done. People need to understand the power of these technologies. Then only these things can, go forward, but it is happening and slowly and steadily. But of course, another important thing is all these things can grow very fast when you are able to converge all the technologies like blockchain as well as cloud, and as well as data analytics and through platforms, automated platforms, so that you are able to manage humongous amount of data in a safe and secure manner by protecting the privacy confidentiality. At the same time, you are able to manage the large data to derive insights from that by analyzing all this information that is being generated and stored for lifetime. So that's where you can unlock the value, and you're able to unlock the value of the data. That is when you will be able to prove the economics in a better manner for the blockchain.
Yeah, thank you, Srini. No, I truly believe that India has definitely crossed that chasm of why cloud. It is all about how cloud, right? And we are going to talk more about it, after a little break. Like maybe you guys, we all can grab a drink, and then we can get into our deep dive presentation of how cloud and how can we make organizations successful through this entire life cycle of cloud transformation journey, right? Thank you.